Collin was the middle of my 5 children. He had an older brother, Austin, my oldest child. They were incredibly close. He looked up to Austin. Austin was his role model. His sister, Olivia, who's older than him, he was also very close to her. She was strong academically, as was Collin, so he really respected that and connected with her around that. He and his brother, Aiden, were 23 months apart, and they were connected at the hips. They shared a bedroom for 16 years. They had a really special relationship. And then his little sister, Ava, the youngest of our 5, he was very protective of her. When he passed away, the first thing we realized was how he had such an incredibly strong connection to each and every one of us. My daughter Ava always says he was the glue that kept our family together. He was always a fun kid, always very energetic, definitely quirky.
Collin was a little bit of everything, precociousness. He was a really funny kid.
He had this smile that lit up a room every time he walked into it, and he was just genuinely a great person.
He would walk in a room and you would feel his energy. People said it all the time, he would come up to you and smile and you felt this big connection with him because his smile was so genuine and you could feel it.
He was just my best friend. We played sports together all the time, shared a bunk bed for 16, 17 years. He was a big competitor, but, whenever someone was, down, he would always, reach out a hand to pick them up, just always kind of lifting up everyone.
He really cared about the underdog, and no matter who you were, he was always gonna look out for you.
He also had this really unusual sense, he could walk in a room, and if someone in that room felt like they didn't belong, he had this sense for feeling out who that was immediately, and he would go to them and he'd make sure they felt good and they felt like they belonged. And he always did that ever since he was young. I don't know how he got that gift, but he definitely had that gift.
He was a loyal friend, incredibly loyal family kid, and his friends, I guess for lack of a better term, they were friends till the end, right? Collin never had any enemies, He was friends with everybody. And it was always funny, we'd be somewhere and somebody would always say, "Hey, Collin." And he'd say, "Oh, yeah." And I'd say, "Who's that?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, this guy I met through such and such and such and such, and he plays basketball for this club team." And he seemed to know everybody, right? And everybody kind of knew Collin.
Collin was a very caring boyfriend. I had never felt so cared for by someone outside of my family. He was a jokester too. Our sarcasm got along pretty well.
It's funny because his relationship to my family was a lot different than my other friends. So I would have 10 people over. Everyone would come in and just go downstairs to the basement. But Collin would come in and sit down with my mom or my dad or my sister and be like, "How are you? How are you doing? How was work today?" or something like that. And you really noticed that he actually cared about my family, because none of my other friends did that. And all my friends and I would go downstairs and he'd be up there for half an hour to an hour just talking with my dad or something like that.
He was always busy, he always had something going on, and he was also a really hard worker, very dedicated.
Unbelievably smart guy. I mean, there are so many times I remember thinking wow, he is so much smarter than I was at this age. So I really admired him, always.